Hey guys, this is Andrew Lee, your admin over at California Insurance Agents Group and also CEO of Health Mutual Network. I got two boys in here, two men of great stature in the insurance industry. We got Christian Brindle and we have Glenn Shelton from eSenior slash all of the above, formerly known as Christian Brindle Insurance Services, lead heroes, hired heroes. All over all of that consolidated into one. We got both members here of that conglomeration. Christian, Glenn,
Conglomeration.
what is going on?
What's going on, dude? I love your
Dude,
picture behind you, by the way. I know that's
Thank
new,
you.
right?
It's some kind of something.
It's some kind of something.
bro, thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure,
Yes.
and it's great to be with you as always, brother. You're killing it and crushing it with all the content you're bringing. So we're happy to be here.
Of course, man. And because of that content, I needed two of the people that do content pretty well. So, did you guys ever end up coming up with a nickname for you two, like a Benifer, right? Or
Jennifer.
a um
Glenn Gleston? Gleston?
This
Christlin?
this one's hard. This is a
Yeah,
hard one.
Chrislin?
how
Yeah,
about
I don't
this?
know
A
how do
quick
you
15-minute workshop. A quick
uh,
15 or a 15-second workshop.
15-second workshop.
All right,
Ready,
one, two,
go.
three, go. We gotta come up with something.
Uh, uh,
Gliston.
Clen,
Clan?
Glenn. Gliston,
Gliston,
uh,
Five more seconds, guys.
Grist,
Grist.
Grist,
All right, I got it. Chris Shelton.
Chris Shelton,
Oh, that we have a winner, ladies and gentlemen.
Chris Shelton.
Chris
Our
Shelton.
mer that's the merger name. That's the
Yeah,
merger name.
it's
That
it's
sounds
like
Chris
just won
Shelton.
a country music
that sounds
award.
like sounds like yeah,
Just
yeah,
just won a
exactly. I was about to
CMA. Um,
That's hilarious.
Teen Choice Music Video
Teen
Awards.
Choice Best Kiss. You guys got to kiss at some point. To make it official. But
Oh,
cool. We'll work on that. We'll follow back up
yes,
and see what name you
absolutely.
guys come up with. But most importantly, guys, we are here because we wanted to get you some education on how to work purchase leads if you don't have your own marketing campaign set up either organically, you're not one of the people that have been in the industry for 10 years and have a whole bunch of financial advisor, doctor, lawyers, referral partners just stacked up waiting to get you leads during AEP. So now that Christian Brindle has come together with Glenn and Glenn having experience with the lead side, of course, these are telemarketed leads that I've also personally used myself. I have recordings on it that I train my agents with these leads. So I have used them myself, and they do actually work. They work for me. They pick up their phone. There's pretty good, intent, I would say, right? There's good intent
Yeah,
because
that's a good word.
somebody has already talked to them. So it gives more social proof that somebody is going to reach out and that person is you. And they remember, they're like, oh, yeah, okay, so blah, blah,
Right.
blah. Here's my situation. You don't even have to ask sometimes. So, guys, if you're purchasing leads and you don't know how to run Facebook marketing, you don't feel like your mail box drops are being effective because you're in a place where it's just a blackout zone. Seminars aren't really a hit. How do we work purchase leads correctly?
That's a
You want
great
to
question.
take that one, Mr.
Yeah.
Glenn?
I think there's and so specifically too with AEP this year, we're really focused on the preset appointments with scope of appointment. So, the way the program works is you're able to track this lead all the way back to the original opt-in. That comes from a landing page that is one of our publisher partners. It's an SMID, CMS approved landing page that we're then able to reach out and contact that person on your behalf and schedule that appointment while also doing a verbal scope at the same time. The appointment is set 48 hours or further out from the time that we speak to them. So we're able to kind of clear all of these hurdles for you guys so you can get right to the point when you're calling this prospect up. Taking care of the lead generation, taking care of the actual appointment set, making sure you're getting that scope, putting it 48 hours out. That's kind of been the strategy that worked incredibly well last year. And really, all we've done is improve upon it going into AEP 2025. So, one thing Andrew mentioned there was just the intent. When you have someone who opted in and they spoke to someone on the phone and they agreed to an appointment with an agent, now you have multiple touch points in that marketing process that really does increase the intent every time as it kind of goes through that marketing funnel before it even reaches you as the agent. So how do you have success with that? I think one is realistic expectations. I think that's a huge one. Christian and I have talked about this to death on Taco Tuesday before. We were talking about Tony Merwin on one of our Taco Tuesdays. He was a guest, and he talked about the comparison with batting averages. And I think honestly, it's such a great comparison because you look at if you follow MLB at all. Christian pretends to. I actually do. Andrew, I've seen you at the Dodgers games. I know you follow the MLB, bro. Um, shout out to the Dodgers, by the way, bro. I think this is going to be a good year for them as we get to the postseason. But 10% or less. If we're talking about a face-to-face appointment, 10% or less, you're probably doing something that's hindering your results. 20% is probably about average. And if you're batting 30% or better, you're crushing it. You're doing an incredible job. And just like the MLB, I'd say the same thing goes to agents. So having realistic expectations coming into it, understanding how the marketing program works, matching what you're saying to what we're saying. You can listen to the recording of the appointment that we provide you guys. That is like the very first step, in my opinion, of how an agent can be successful buying leads. Christian, what's another uh, way that agents can be successful during AEP buying leads?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of piggyback on everything that you said before, and I think everything that you mentioned is absolutely spot on that. But I think on top of that, I think when it comes to buying leads, I think you have to have the mentality and have the attitude going into it that you actually have to work the leads. This is another thing we've talked to death,
No
right?
way.
Like, no way, right? What a concept. But I think there's so many agents that buy leads, and I knew it was a thing before we came together and merged our companies together in January because, having Glenn as a friend, I'd hear a lot of, these types of stories, but I didn't really quite understand until I was involved in the business and saw it firsthand. I mean, it's a fairly common thing for an agent to buy a batch of leads. Say they buy 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 leads, and they don't even get through them one time, right? In terms of calling them. So I think you need an effective strategy to be able to make sure that you are capitalizing on your touch points with these leads, right? And when I say touch points, it's not only going to come from your own efforts of calling those leads. And, Glenn and I have probably beat to death how many times you should be calling the leads over the years. We've talked about it countless times, trying to determine what is that golden number. In our agency, we really like to see 8 to 10 times. If there's an agent that's
Yeah.
in our agency that's working them, we kind of want that agent to really call them 8 to 10 times before they're giving up. And it's not going to be spread out too long either, right? Like we don't want it to take them a month to call them 8 to 10 times. Like we want to call them 8 to 10 times probably in the first week, right?
Right.
And then in addition to that, touch points come from automations, right? So if an agent has a good CRM or something that can kind of help, uh, hit the leads with text messages, with emails, with different kinds of additional touch points on top of just the manual phone calls, that helps as well. I think to effectively work leads, you have to get a good contact rate. And I think your contact rate has everything to do with your close rate. Andrew, we
Yes.
were doing a training together the other day, right? And this was essentially what we were talking about. If Andrew closes 30% of leads and I close 20% of leads, but I talk to 100 people and he only talks to 10 people, I'm going to win in terms of who writes the most applications because I had more contacts, I had more at bats, to use the baseball analogy, right? So um, nowadays with leads, it's all about how many of them can you get in contact with. And if you're having enough contacts and you're still not seeing the closes and you're still not seeing the conversions, then it has something to do with your sales process.
Absolutely. So, I mean, to get to the honeypot, to get to where in my office we call it the pinata method, right? If you're gonna hit it one time, if you're gonna hit it twice, a little thing breaks. You hit it about 9, 10 times, there's gonna be candy coming out. But if you stop at 7, you're right at the cusp of not having it come out, right?
It's a
So
great
it's the same.
analogy,
I
Andrew.
love this.
Great
I mean, for
analogy.
our Southern
I might
California
borrow
folk,
that
it
one.
is very necessary to bring that in. So yeah, of course. I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, because you never know with these people, right? Like most of them aren't even retired yet. If they're T65s, let's say, for example, um, or during AEP, whatever the case is. I mean, with these people, they're still, on the fence about things. Like you really just have to be very intentional. You have to have intentionality to really get a hold of these leads and really have them understand what you're talking about, and then having them consistently like text you over like a question randomly, and you're like, yeah, this is what it is. They're like, okay, thank you. And then them all of a sudden saying, I got my A and B card, that makes me feel really good. But during AEP, when you're going from, let's say, an MA to MA, with a lot of the changes happening this year, as you guys, again, speaking of beating a dead horse slash pinata, um, we've been talking about
A
A
horse
dead
this
pinata.
pinata
forever.
horse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
um, instead of going back to talking about the Inflation Reduction Act and all that stuff. Um, so with this year being this year, and if agents, because I know agencies that have really scaled their agencies like $1 million agencies that only use outside leads. Like they don't have internal marketing,
Right.
which eventually, that's the goal. But some people, they just let it run. It was scalable and then it worked out, right? I mean, you guys have heard of call centers just specifically buying, outbound leads. I mean, it is just what it is.
Right.
So it's not just for the everyday agent, it's for call centers and businesses. Like you feel like you're going out of business or whatever. I know a lot of people left the industry not because of their marketing, is because of like all the rules or whatever. But this kind of stuff does apply for everybody. How do people maximize in terms of besides just calling them like 8 to 10 times? How else can they maximize their experience with buying a lead and then converting that lead?
You want to take that one, Glenn?
Yeah. I think so, and again, like a preset appointment's going to be a little different than a lead, right? Like if you have someone where they've just opted in or they just agreed to a phone call, but they didn't necessarily agree to an actual appointment. I think to really maximize, get as much juice as possible out of it. Christian talked about the touch points. You're talking about how many times you're contacting them. I think also having some drip marketing as well can really help too. Having something where you're reaching out, and maybe this is over a longer period of time. I'll give you a shout out to Jeff Root. Early on, I remember watching or listening to a podcast with Jeff Root, and he was talking about his drip marketing campaigns when he gets a life insurance lead. And if they don't buy in the first 30 days, right? We're talking about the first 10 contact attempts. What do you do with that lead, right? A lot of people will just throw it away. A lot of people will never contact that person ever again. There's still value there. You can still get someone who will reach back out to you. They're thinking about you. They saw something that you sent an email, or maybe you tried following up with them by phone, etc. Like I think there's a lot of value in that, in having some type of drip marketing. Obviously, a shameless plug here for the seven figure CRM. We have kind of our own system in place for that type of follow-up to make sure you're doing all those touch points, to be able to record your phone calls, to be able to set automated reminders or send out automated text follow-up like that. That was something where it was like a feature before, like it used to be something that was not required, right? It was something people did that was helpful. Now this is like the new baseline, in my opinion. Now you have to have these automated follow-ups to really truly maximize your leads and to truly get the sales, the maximum number of sales out of your lead order. You really need to have this follow-up system, whether it's like a short-term follow-up system where you're talking about like the first 10 contact attempts, you're trying to get them on the phone, or maybe it's more of a drip marketing approach where it's a longer, 30, 60, 90 days, they're getting an email, they're getting a postcard, whatever it is. Um, but ultimately, it does come back to touch points, in my opinion, because the more times you touch them, the higher your contact rate, the more people you speak to, the more sales you're going to get. It's utilizing technology and the tools that we have to make all of that a lot easier, right? Hiring a virtual assistant's another great option. If you don't have time to do all the follow-up, you don't have time to call all of your leads, pay someone else to do that for you. That was the first thing I did as an agent when it came to bringing in someone else. I brought in an appointment setter. That was the very first thing I did because I didn't have time to call all of the leads myself. So, figuring out, being self-aware, understanding what's taking up your time, understanding what you're not good at, and then getting a solution for where you're struggling, where you're suffering in this process. And that really seems, I think, to take an agent from 0 to 60 a lot of times in a very short time period.
Yeah, and Christian, I mean, you've done this many, many of times, right? What is this? Your double digit somewhat
Yeah. It's probably my
open
12th
enrollment.
AEP.
Yeah,
Wow.
12th AEP. And
Thanks.
you've
That's
worked
my
with
son's age. That's crazy to think about. That's
that
a
is
lot
crazy,
of AEP.
especially because I still think that you're in your 20s for some reason, Christian. I keep forgetting.
What about
not
Uh,
not
me, dude?
not
I
too
don't look
far
like I'm
removed.
20?
no, not
Glenn,
looks wise. I met Christian when he was like 20 something.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. That's
Glenn,
fair.
Glenn, on the other hand, is 40, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Thank you.
No,
Dang, dude. Um, but
Anyways.
under the bus, Christian. Um, Christian, on the sales side, if you're buying a lead and you're working it to death, and some people are like, "Man, this really sucks." They already have some kind of other plan that they like, but I don't know why they reached out to me. And I did try to ask them as to why, what they would need, and they gave me some, reasons as to why they thought they might have reached out. How do we turn those people into I'm reaching out because I want this and I need you to do it for me?
yeah, I think I think it ultimately comes down to anytime you're dealing with somebody that already um has a plan, right? They already have a plan, and you as an agent are kind of trying to go in and seeing what you can do to replace that plan. I think it ultimately comes down to having a very thorough analysis process as an agent, and being able to ask the right questions of that member to be able to first find out what they have. So many agents, when I actually listen to phone calls, and I know Glenn has experienced this far more than I have when it comes to listening to phone calls
For
um,
sure.
with lead heroes. And there's so
As soon
often
as he
that
buys half of CBIS, he's like, get to work, dude. Get to work. I'm not gonna listen. I'm listening to all the
it,
calls.
but
Love it.
it's one of those things where it's very often for an agent in general not to actually even find out what the client has, right? They don't even get that far in the sales process. And so, first off, if you're asking the right questions, you can uncover very quickly what the client has. let's be real, guys. If you don't know what the prospect ultimately is on, how can you really know which direction you're going to take them, right? It's shopping their current plan against what's in the marketplace, um, and against kind of what's available with other plans. And so you need to find that out early and often. The second thing you need to find out is what's very important to that client. So I think it comes down to being an expert question asker and asking the right questions in a very methodical and thorough way with your leads, right? Um, and getting them to basically disclose that information to you. And I think, those things come by not beating around the bush, by being very quick and to the point with your leads, by all of the sales things that Andrew is training you guys on right now, like controlling your tones, right? Like having a very thorough and tight script that you're following to the T. And but ultimately when you're trying to do plan to plan changes, those things are going to be pivotal because you need to be able to know what you're comparing to and ultimately what's important to that client. So many times agents, they'll go right into a scenario where they're just throwing benefits at the client trying to beat a plan that they have, and they don't really know if those benefits really matter to that client, right? And it's just a very inefficient way of selling, in my opinion. And I think really peeling the onion of it and discovering what's
I like
important to
that.
that client, I think is super, super effective and very efficient in when you're working leads. And that really helps you know which way to go with the client.
Yeah, absolutely. And answer either of you guys can answer this, but do you feel like phone sales are making a comeback this year?
I mean, for me, I think phone sales have been,
Yeah.
for a while now, a very, very proficient way of doing business. There might have been for a certain segment of agents, especially with, the phone call recording rules, the 48-hour scope of appointment rules, all those things,
Pandemic.
the pandemic, all that stuff.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, you might have seen though, a certain demographic of agents shift over to face to kind of, combat and make it easier on themselves for those types of items. But I think phone sales has been there, and I definitely think it for the people that might have shifted to face, they're probably feeling the inefficiencies of face to face. Not that face to face is a bad way to do business. I built our book of business in the early years as face to face exclusively. But when you factor in all the drive time, all the windshield time, um, the fact, that you get stood up. One thing we see, we're, talking about preset appointments is sometimes the client does stand you up on the appointment. It's going to happen no matter who's setting your appointment, right? Even when I set my own appointment, sometimes people no show. And it's a real gut punch when you're driving to somebody's house and they're not there. Whereas if it's on the phone, you can do a ton of other things, right? You can call more leads, you can, whatever you're going to do. Maybe you're having the appointments double booked for yourself as a buffer, which is a super, super good way to kind of overcome that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
it's very efficient from your schedule and your time, um, from that kind of perspective doing telesales. And I think
Does does
people are
this
starting to
take
see
you
that.
does this take you back to the Zoom, the happy hour Zoom we had where this came up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was
Why don't you tell that story? I think that's apropos. I think you should tell that
I,
story.
I don't want the people involved to get upset with me. Maybe you should. You might remember it better than
We
I
we
do.
were this was during the pandemic. We were on a Friday happy hour cocktail party, the virtual cocktail parties.
I was
If you
probably
were
there.
there, yeah, you were probably
I'm sure
there.
you were
I'm
there. I'm
sure
sure
you
you
were
were there.
there. The real ones were there, let's be honest. Like the real ones were there for sure. One of these in particular, we had one agent who took a strong stance on face-to-face sales. S- And unbeknownst to this agent, she was surrounded by telesales agents. And so as soon as she took this strong stance on face-to-face sales, it was just like watching piranhas, just attack. It was like, well, no, telesales is actually more efficient, and this is why, and like all the numbers, and it was just like one thing after another. It was like,
And
And
and it was in the heart of COVID as well,
yes,
that she was advocating for
yes,
face-to-face sales. She's and
yes.
and there's things getting thrown at her on this call, like, you're putting these seniors in jeopardy, in danger, and
The
everything.
one time we cared about like the outside world besides Medicare agents cared about seniors. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
Yeah,
back
but
to like whatever seniors. Like
yeah, yeah, whatever.
yeah. But no, I think, that, yeah, that's an instance too where, like, it's one of those things that, when you really start looking at the contrast of face to face versus telesales, it is hard to argue for face to face when you're talking about all the little details of, how much time you save, how much more you can get done, how efficient everything is of telesales. Andrew, you've built your business as a telesales agent, right? And done a phenomenal job at it. So, you have a lot of experience in that arena too. And it's the main word I'll use, one word that you used earlier, Andrew, that I'm going to borrow, is scalable. Telesales is far
Mm,
more scalable than face to face. So if your goal is to scale, you might want to really consider doing telesales.
I love it.
yeah. And Glenn, anything to add on to how this will all work out with the full system, right? Everything that's offered, right? So we have the the leads themselves,
Right,
then a drip into the CRM,
right.
right? And then from there, the if you're too busy, let's say if you're an agent out there, let's say you're pretty good in a different line and you're just like this Medicare thing, and I know some agents like this Medicare thing is holding me back because I need to learn about Medicare, do all this stuff with Medicare, and I just can't even call them. So then you have a VA reach out, just like you said, Glenn. What's like the most effective like funnel from getting that lead all the way to the end to a sale using your technology, using both of you guys' technology?
That's a great question. And part of it too is there is going to be some wiggle room as far as like what is the agency's process or what's the agent's process? Like we just talked about, are they selling face to face or are they selling over the phone? Because some of that might be a little different. If you're trying to support 5 or 10 agents, your system's probably going to look a little different than if you're just trying to maximize, the number of appointments for yourself as an independent agent. But, personally, if I'm let's say it's me, right? Let's say I'm the writing agent and I'm trying to take all of the tools, the technology, the resources that Christian and I have to really maximize my own time because I would treat this like a doctor, right? The same way I when I was writing business still, I treated it like I was the doctor. I just want to see the patients. I don't want to schedule the appointments. I don't want to have to prospect, right? I don't want to have to do the follow-up or the customer service. Someone else, needs to come in and do that, that wants to do that. And I just focus on the most important thing, which is writing business. Everything else is off my plate. So, when it comes to follow-up, either the virtual assistant would be doing the follow-up or automations from the CRM system at Seven Figure CRM. That's where the follow-up would get done. So, you can take a preset appointment or a lead that gets generated, can go into the CRM system. The follow-up's either done automatically or manually using a virtual assistant. And then me as an agent, I'm just dealing with the prospect either during the appointment or during a live transfer. If, that's the great part with Go High Level systems, as everybody knows, you can just live transfer it right there in the system. Just click the button. We were just looking at it today. And
Warmer
that you can
blind.
just, yeah, just hand, yeah, warmer blind, baby. Just hand that call right over to you as the agent. If I'm a writing agent and my primary source of revenue comes from me writing business, I don't really want to do anything else but write business, right? And it sounds obvious when I say it like that, but most agents, I'd say 80 to 90% of agents try to do all of it themselves. They try to do the prospecting, they try to set the appointments, they're doing the follow-up. I was talking to an agent last week and I was like, and I could hear them mashing on their keyboard. And I was like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, I need to send a copy of someone's ID card, their Blue Cross Blue Shield card or whatever it was. Like, I'm making sure they get a copy. And I'm like, man, I'm like, why are you doing that? And they're like, what do you mean, Glenn? I'm doing good customer service, Glenn. I'm like, no, yes, it has to get done. I'm not arguing with that. Like, the beneficiary needs their ID card. We're all on the same page. But I would never in a million years touch that with a 10-foot pole myself as a writing agent. That any money. And that's what most of you guys watching this, most of you, the process yourself. The follow-up after the appointment, whether it was a sale or not a sale, entering the information into the CRM, manually doing that data entry, calling for the appointment set, doing the prospecting to generate a lead. You're doing everything by yourself. And I wouldn't do any of it. I would literally just sell insurance. Like that's the secret.
Yeah, I posted a meme on the California Insurance Agents group of this guy on a parasail, and he's still on his laptop because he still has to send his
Oh, yeah,
ID
I saw
to the
that. I
client.
saw
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw that. That was perfect.
So it's
10
like
out of
if
10.
yeah,
I'm
the
on
meme gods.
vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Chef's
That
kiss on
was
that one.
chef's kiss. Yeah.
But if you're on vacation and yeah, if you're doing that, that means you need a freaking scale. I mean, I got a VA when I first started before, hiring, and just get as much help as you need, right? I mean, shoot,
Yes.
like there's more things that you can have them do. It's not just like, just appointment setting, there's if you can train them well
100%.
enough. There's people like, yeah, Lisa, Asmussen. I don't know, keep forgetting.
Yes.
You
Sorry,
nailed
Yes.
it.
Lisa.
You nailed it.
Um,
Yes. Thank
that
thank
has
God
like
Christian didn't have to say that name. That's the
No,
good
I finally
news.
got it down. I
yeah, but
finally
Okay,
she
got
has
it
like
good.
an
down. Shout out
army.
Lisa.
Okay.
She has
Shout
like
out
an army of your
Lisa.
VAs,
Yes, she
and
does.
she's
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 crushing.
running it
We
like
love
it's like a
Lisa.
regular kind of
Yeah.
business kind of thing. So there's strengths to it, especially as a solopreneur. Like, what are we doing not having help, right? You need assistance because if you don't have assistance, I mean, you're gonna have to have a portion of your day every day to work on the business, right? To scale if you're at that stage, right? I mean, like you said, Glenn, if you're most of the people that are buying leads right now are the people that need to sell, 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 sell to have a
Right.
base, and then from
Right.
there figure out where they want to scale. But funny enough, it all does still come back to if this works, you scale this, right? Like calling
Yes.
up using the VA to call the leads, and if that's working, and then have another agent come in, have another agent come in, repeat the process, and then you from there figure out your own marketing, do whatever you got to do, but of course use leads as a launching pad. I did, and I'm not just over here. You guys know me. I'm not like, what lead is that? What lead is that? Like I'm interested in that. Like I'm just really not a lead. I'm not too interested in leads, but with lead heroes, it works out, right? It's pretty straightforward. There's a handful of people in the industry that I trust with leads, and I'm a pretty hard sell on those. Um, and just the fact that the conversation is already recorded from when that lead called in and talked to the person setting up the leads. I mean, that proportion alone is pretty valuable because there's a reference point back to, hey, remember they called and I'm the one that was supposed to reach out. Like, oh yeah, a couple hours ago. Yes, a couple freaking hours ago, right? And it's
Yes.
well, it's
Hmm.
it's that, but it's just also like there it's top of mind, especially if you call your leads right as you get them. They come, I like the way that you do it, Glenn, where it just comes hot off the press. You go one, two, three, four at a time, five at a time. It's not just like boom, here you go, where it looks like it's used leads, right? It's like it's hot off the press. They call right now. You call them now, and then you call them now, right?
Yes.
So that
Hmm.
I think that part is really cool about that. So I definitely wanted to highlight that, and I want to be respectful of you guys' time. I know you guys stuff to do today, as well too. So any last comments or last features or anything you want to share with the California people out there? Because I know a lot of people are struggling right now with AEP. I'm not going to fearmonger again. I posted yesterday in a group about don't like about fear mongering about all this stuff
Yes.
with
Hmm.
Part D. I
Yes.
mean, it is what it is. You guys get paid pennies to the dollars compared to anything else that you guys could be doing.
Yes.
And
Thank
worrying
you.
about
Thank
that
Thank
you.
you.
is not necessarily a worry that I mean, I know you want to be a great, agent, but heck, yes, you're a great agent to 100 people. You get to 1,000, you're an okay agent to 1,000 people. You get to 10,000 clients, you're not really talking to them. And if you lose the PDP, whatever, right at that point,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
guys,
Yeah.
Thank
whatever
you.
level you guys are at determines how you're gonna freak out over this. We're not freaking out. I'm really not freaking out. I could care. I really could just let them know honestly, right? And you could also use the CRM for that. Send out a mass email, text message saying, "Hey, look, this is the situation with your drugs. Here's what's gonna happen. Do you guys want to stay on that, or you want to shop? Okay, if you want to shop, give me a list of your drugs, and then just have everything consolidated." So people are freaking out right now, and I don't know why I went into that tangent, but
No,
don't
it's
freak
valid.
out.
It's
Totally
great.
valid.
Yes.
Don't freak out. Call your
Yes.
leads. Do everything as is, and you should be good. Especially us in California. I mean, depending on where you're at in California, but heck, if you're in Southern California and you're not like writing that many PDPs, I mean, what is
For
there
sure.
really to worry about? Especially, anyways, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit
No,
hole.
you're good. You're good.
Any
Let
last
me,
words you guys want to
yeah,
add? Yeah,
I'll kind of share my final thoughts here and then I'll let
sure.
Christian share his.
Yeah.
If you're interested in the preset appointments with scope of appointment for this AEP 2025, we'll have the link somewhere below this video where you can actually click to register for that webinar. It is next Wednesday, August 28th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We will be going live, talking all about how this program works, answering questions at the end of it. And yeah, just again, this is such a great time to have your best AEP ever, you guys. The fear mongering, like Andrew just talked about, that is all just a distraction. It's an excuse. You don't need to get hung up on that. But yeah, we'll see you guys on the webinar next week. If you choose to join us, if you need help with getting in front of more seniors this AEP. Christian, final thoughts.
Yeah. Definitely join us on the webinar next week, guys. We'd love to be able to spend some time with you and kind of go over these preset appointments and kind of what they're all about. And I think for all of you guys that are in California, I mean, you're in a great market. You're in going into a season right now that is primed for potential to massively grow your business, right? Um, and I think you need a vehicle to get there. I believe that the presets can be a valuable vehicle to kind of contribute towards getting you to your AEP goals. And I mean, of course, if you're in California, you need to be working with Andrew, of course, right? Like, you need to be working with somebody who's going to help mentor you and help kind of get you to where you want to be. So, um, you know, work with Andrew, watch Andrew's content. He's going to lead you into the right direction. And there's, I mean, there is really nobody killing the game right now and waving that flag for California like Mr. Andrew Lee. So, I'll just kind of leave it there.
I appreciate that, guys.
California
Knows how to
is,
party. Yeah, after
yep,
AEP.
that's right.
Uh,
That's right.
right now I am in freaking go mode, right? And I think
100%, dude.
everybody that's a Medicare agent should be on go mode, really, right
Should have
now.
been in go mode for a while
Right.
now.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
if you haven't, now's I mean it's a little too late for like a in-depth marketing plan, but you can still get all your contracts and whatever in. Remember, there's a blackout period coming up generally the month before AEP, so make sure you guys keep that in mind too. But guys, I am just very thankful for you guys hopping on today. I thought that was really good information, specifically about how to sell you know, leads that you did not create yourself over the
Right.
phone and how to
Yes.
have success with it. Guys, if you guys have any questions on how to work these leads, where can they find you guys?
I think if they want specific information about the leads, probably the best place to go is to leadheroes.com.
Okay,
Um, or they can reach out to leads at leadheroes.com via email, get tons of information from our great support team. They can also check out the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group. There's a lot of great information there as well.
cool. And then I'll drop this on YouTube. I'll put this make sure you guys drop the link of that
Yes.
webinar on the bottom
I
of
will.
that
Yes.
so that
Yes, we
people
will
can
we will
attend
do
that
it.
as well
It'll be
too.
right there.
Boom. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, if you guys even want to reach out to me, you guys can DM me, or you can call me at 323-844-8471, and I'd be happy to walk you through how to work these leads and how we can work together on this as well too. But gentlemen, I appreciate you guys hopping on here,
Of
and
course.
we'll do more of this kind of stuff, and hopefully we do one after AEP with all these successes that we've experienced. So with that, guys, I bid you guys adieu. Please like and subscribe, guys. This channel is growing organically. So if you guys are watching right now and you guys already know who I am and know who they are, and you guys like us, please like, please comment, please subscribe. Thanks, guys, and I'll catch you at the next one.